Well, I thought I'd start with a couple of songs, and I'll put the words here. This song. So I'll do something a little different this time. I like to sing. Today one of my girls she always brings me a guitar on Sunday, expects me to sing to her. So sing a bunch of songs to her. She loves to sing along, and then tonight, after I'd done that, my wife wanted me to put her to sleep by singing, so kind of got me in the mood to sing a little bit. So let me know you there if you jump on, and I'm not going to sing the whole time, but I thought I'd just sing a song or two, just do something a little different. Plus, I really like to sing. Oh, God in heaven, in bright array, royal crowns, oh, how greatly you reign, so mighty your power, make the stars stand, one single word could dissolve all of them. But I know now how much you love me, when I realize that you washed our feet. Cherubim surrounding your white holy throne, and legions of angels who praise you alone. Joy of the Father and the Spirit are yours. They mingle with fire on that throne room floor. But I know now how much you love me, when I realize that you washed on our feet. Your goodness is known there by all who attend, as the great and the mighty shall all see then. Greatness is measured by loving hand, when the bridegroom of heaven stoops and serves all of them. And I know now how much you love me, when I realize that you washed our feet. Oh, looking back now, when our Lord washed their feet. Oh, I thought that'd be an interesting way to start it out this time. Honestly, our pastor preached a sermon one day back in 2013, and it just got me thinking about that. Nobody ever wrote a song about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples and what that really means, you know. The God of heaven and puts himself low enough to wash the feet of the people following him. And he said, if you don't do that, then you have no part in me. It's a pretty amazing thought, I think. And I think it's not going to be any different in heaven. You know, we think we're going to just worship God all the time, but I think we've seen from our Creator that even though he deserves all praise and all worship, that there's going to be an example set even then. I think that Christ even then will be the one who serves his bride. I think that's his nature, and I think that's the nature that we need to emulate today. And that's a tall order, to say the least. So, yeah, if you like that, feel free to share it. I wrote that in 2013. Well, I got to thinking today, you know, what does it mean? What's it mean for somebody to suffer like we've seen so many people in this world have to suffer? It's not as common in this country as it is in some countries. You know, I have that friend over in Pakistan right now, and that friend is losing her home after everything they've been through. You know, her father died, and you know, they barely scraped by. When I was more naive about the world years ago when I first met her, I was just talking, you know, what do you eat for breakfast? And I was just describing all the things that I eat, you know. And she goes, well, I just eat the same thing I eat every day, a little bit of rice. And she said, you're really lucky. You know, and it dawned on me, wait a minute, I didn't realize what I was saying, you know. This girl probably doesn't get a chance to eat much more than rice. And how unfortunate it is that so many people in the world have to suffer. You know, I've heard people say, well, I've suffered more than Jesus. And there are people who've suffered more than Jesus, you know. Oh, thanks, Jeremiah. Appreciate that. I'm a big 42 now. Which is an interesting number, Jeremiah. We'll get into that another time. But throughout this world, not only are people crucified still today like Jesus, set on fire, burned. I can think of examples in history where people have been cut in their entrails and hung by their intestines from a tree, or had all the skin filleted off of their body and coated in honey and left out for ants to devour and for the bugs out in the hot sun with no skin. I can think of how they used to punish somebody by drawing and quartering them, meaning they'd tie their arms and legs to 4 horses and then set the horses running until they pulled them apart. Back in Roman times, Christians were torched, burned at the stake, fed the lions. There were some people, maybe not Christians, who were put inside a metal statue of some sort, and the statue set on fire until they were cooked alive. And I think, gosh, there's been a lot of suffering, a lot of unbelievable suffering that's happened in this world. And, you know, it's one thing when we suffer because that's what we deserve, and we've all done it. We've all suffered because we've screwed up, broken the rules. We've suffered because we've done illegal things, immoral things, unethical things. But what is it when somebody suffers because they've done no wrong? What does that mean? How often do we come and judge somebody and say that the reason they're suffering so much is because they've done something terrible in their lives? And all I can think about is that example from the book of Job, where his friends came to him and said, you know, let me tell you why you're having all these bad experiences, Job. Let me tell you why your children are dead now, and why all your possessions are burned, and why your body's covered in boils. Let me tell you why. It's because you've done some terrible thing and offended God. Job steps back and says, no, I'm talking out of the integrity of my heart. I haven't done anything wrong. And at the end of the day, God saw that his heart was pure, and the hearts of the people who had judged him as friends, supposed friends, Job had to pray for them. That's an amazing thing. You know, the more that somebody suffers innocently, the greater their reward, the greater their example. And some people say, well, why do they have to suffer so much? And I don't know, except that I believe completely in ultimate justice. And because of the principle of ultimate justice, when someone suffers, what will happen is that person who caused them to suffer will eventually have to face that suffering. You see, right now, they can laugh, they can turn to their friends, they can go to their drugs, they can party their thoughts away, they can laugh it off, they can scorn it off, they can take drugs, they can drink alcohol, and they can try to numb the pain, they can try to avoid their conscience, but because of ultimate justice, there'll be a day when they'll have to look at what they did. And they'll never again be able to turn their eye from it. So when somebody is suffering and suffers the most, what they're doing is, as a testimony, they are condemning that person. And if you say, well, I'm going to be angry at God someday. No, you won't. Yeah, you feel that way. You have a right to feel that way because of the things you've had to go through. But you won't be angry at God that day. Besides the fact that you won't be able to lift your face off of the ground, that even the greatest of the prophets couldn't lift their face off the ground when they saw God. Besides that, forgetting that, when you see the justice of God, when you see ultimate justice on display, you're not going to feel like you can outdo it. Yeah, there have been plenty of people in this world who have suffered even more than Christ, physically in agony and pain, who've lost more physically speaking. And because of that, those who suffered innocently, they'll stand as an eternal testimony to those who can no longer escape the pain, who can no longer run away into their drugs, no longer run away, but they'll have to look at what they did, and they'll have to look at it forever. Think of what Jesus thought about the rich man, the poor man, Lazarus, and the poor man begged from the rich man. Lazarus begged from the rich man, and they died. The rich man lifted up his eyes in hell, being in torment. And he couldn't escape. He couldn't look away. There was ultimate justice, and he looked up and he saw into heaven, and he saw what he had done. And he wasn't allowed to look away. He wasn't allowed to turn away. He could always see that way. And that's what justice is going to be like. Because I believe in ultimate justice. I believe that the equations are going to be balanced. I believe in truth. And that's why people suffer, as a stand as a testimony. An eternal testimony to the people who are doing this. They're going to have to face it. And I wonder if any of us are turning from facing the things that we've done rather than admitting them, rather than conscientiously understanding what we've done and turning away from it. And if so, you won't be able to run forever. It's better to do it now. It's better to face reality now and have a change of heart and decide that the things you've done are horrible when you've hurt an innocent person. Can you imagine what it's going to be like for those who hurt little kids? For that stinking person who sodomized a 2-year-old, I think it was in California here the other day, until she died. Can you imagine having to see what you did forever and you're never going to be able to run to your drugs? You're not going to even be able to read a book or watch TV. You're zoned out by blasting your music in your ears. You're not going to be able to exercise it away. No, you'll have to look at what you did. I don't want to be that person. I want to know right now, when I've hurt somebody, that it was bad. I want to claim that right now. I want to claim what I did, and I want to repent of that, to change. That word just means to change your mind. That's all it means. Don't take the Catholic version of that word, okay? I've had a lesson on that before, what that word really means, okay? In Greek, it just means to bring your mind alongside of God. It doesn't mean anything about beating yourself or anything like that, no. It means to change your mind and to change your heart, to see justly what you've done, to see what it costs somebody. Because you will not be able to run forever. I do believe in ultimate justice. If you throw something up in the air, it comes back down. There's laws of thermodynamics of equal and opposite reaction. All equations have to be balanced in mathematics. And you think the creator that did that will not also be just? Even if you don't understand the Bible to be as literal as it may or may not be, whatever your view, if you can see the reality of the world around you, do you not think that God is going to be just, the one that created this universe? And if you're trying to tell yourself that there is no God, the fool has said in his heart there is no God, I strongly encourage you to pull yourself out of whatever you're running to right now and face the reality of running whatever you're running away from. There's no way mathematically that you're not a created being. There's no way biologically that you are not the creation of an incredibly intelligent designer. You have phi and pi all over your body, inside and out. You start at your eye and you circle with the phi. It'll go around one time perfectly. That ring will go to the bottom of your chin. The next time it goes around, it'll go right underneath your belly button. And the next time that circle goes around, it'll hit right underneath your feet. You were designed. You can't get away from that. Anything that is designed has the signature of its designer. It has the logo. It has the trademark of the designer. And think about this. If someone steals your trademark, if someone steals everything from you, guess what they stole first? They stole the trademark from their creator first. Everything they did to you, they did to him first. Every time they hurt a little kid, they not only owe justice to you, or to the kid, or to the person that they've hurt, they owe that justice first to the first trademark that they've stolen. I believe in justice. Sunday, heard a couple sermons today. You know, these things go through my head. But I don't write this stuff down. This is what's in my heart, you know. This is what I think about. I don't like to see people hurting. I don't like to see people over in Pakistan that can't eat. And if some of you want to make a donation, I can show you how to directly help her, or you can send it to me and I'll send it to them, send you a picture of them getting it and all that through Western Union, or you can send it to them yourself. You know, if you want to help people who are hurting, I can show you people. You know, you don't have to help the people I help, but to think about the world and the broken world you live in. Try to help somebody. If you make minimum wage, or I just make it just a hair over minimum wage, there are still people I can help. And my $20 a month goes pretty far in some countries. Even if they just buy a few bags of rice, they can at least eat something, instead of starve. And think about that. Think about the person who's hungry right now that you could feed. Don't turn your eyes away because they're on the other side of the world. Doesn't mean there's nobody here you couldn't help. There's people here you can help too. Plenty of people. Jeremiah turned 44. Watch out, Jeremiah. Watch out, man. Especially in your circles. All his mates is after him. You probably should pay attention to that, really. 44 is the kill number, and if he's 44, that might be the year that they decide to come get him. So, think about the people out there that you could help if you wanted to. You don't have to tell me. I'm not your judge. But think about how the equations will be balanced someday. People are hurting now. You have a lot now. Equations will be balanced. You have a little now and somebody has nothing now. The equations are going to be balanced. Once you think about other people, think about the needs of the world. Think about people you can really help. Some crazy things this week. I think I'm done with that part, but I was talking to my friend Hugh there, and I kid you not, look on the screen right now. If you go back a few videos, there was a light shining on, I guess it's this side of my face right here, coming off my camera, okay? And it's not there now. It had never used to be there. And it did it about 2 or 3 videos, and now it's not doing it anymore. Now Hugh, who knows that he is monitored closely by the CIA, said, listen, this is a signal that they're monitoring you right now because we're talking, And, think about that he would know. He knows a lot about this stuff. It actually is like an infrared signal, that the camera can put out. And he says, keep that off of your skin because it's not good for your skin. It can give you cancer and that kind of thing. Infrared radiation is really bad for you. We're into some pretty heavy stuff with you right now. You don't just come out and expose the information that could indict every single member of Congress and not expect to be watched, Information that could probably get a president unelected for sure, if not thrown in prison. Think about how these guys know what they know. They know that 9/11 happened not by Muslim terrorists, and yet they never tell you. You know how evil that is? And the equations will be balanced someday. It will. But I think as a republic, as a citizenry, as a country, we can help bring political justice now in this world if we choose to. If we choose to see that these pedophile gangs are the ones who took over our government, the ones who killed Kennedy, the ones who are working with the Queen to take this country back from those who, in her opinion, took it from her in the revolution. We could do some amazing things if we can get this information to critical mass. And by that, critical mass is the point at which you put enough radioactive material together that it has to explode. If we get this to enough people that this information must have an effect, it must explode, we can really make a difference. one thing to have gematria. It's another thing to use the gematria to back the facts and the things that we already know and understand. You know, it's interesting that the Rutledge family is the name that the Al Capone family has now. They changed their name to Rutledge. And the Rutledge family is now running Disney World as the new CEO. Think about that for a minute. I saw one of Al Capone's headquarters when I used to work in near Chicago, there in Chicago Heights. And right down the road from there is where the city hall met. And one day I read in the newspaper that everybody in that, all the council members in that city hall were arrested for mafia activities. You know, this stuff's still real. You know, it's still going on. And the Capone family is now the Rutledge family and is now running Disney World. Think about that. And let's see. I'll kind of look through my notes about some of the stuff that I've been going over this week a little bit. I'll find where I set them here. I was looking at David Koch, which was interesting, who died 112 days after his birthday. 112 is the alternative 9/11 number. So that was interesting because it marks 9/11. Well, David Koch is not friends with Mr. Trump. You may have noticed that last few years. Well, he died 27 days after having a prostate cancer diagnosis. So 27, we know, is the ritual number. Ritual equals 27, right? So basically what they're saying is they killed him because of his association with 9/11. And prostate cancer equals 220, which is very close to order out of chaos, 222. Donald John Trump is 220, I believe. And then they said he was a philanthropist, and you should type in philanthropist and order out of chaos, and you'll see that they are only two apart. All the numbers are only two apart, 183 and 185, 75 and 77, 76 and 78, except for the 222, which is basically the same as prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is also equals 59, and they said that he's worth $59 billion. Isn't that weird how that goes together? And then they said he was a philanthropist. Well, philanthropist, the one number that stands out is 193. And Jeremiah has just turned 44. Well, don't become a philanthropist, okay? Because that's 193 is the 44th prime number, like cancer. So watch out for things like cancer this year, Jeremiah. And now, of course, I'm just kidding. I was just talking about helping people. So you do want to help people. Now, David Koch was called a protectionist. Protectionist equals 183, like order out of chaos is 183. Isn't that interesting? No, I'm sorry. It's not. He didn't say he was a protectionist. He was saying he doesn't like Trump's protectionist trade policies. I'm sorry about that. And that's important because what that article was saying was he doesn't like Trump's people behind him, who's protecting him. And Fox News was simply covering it up as a protectionist foreign policy. You see, that's instead of reporting the news as it really is, this is how they code it to lie. So they said that David Koch didn't like Trump's protectionist trade policies. Well, order out of chaos is 183 and protectionist is 183, but the people protecting Trump are two biker gangs, the Hells Angels, which is 183 as well, and the Renegades, which is 78, also like protectionists. And those biker gangs you'll see come out by the hundreds of thousands to protect Trump. Well, what's interesting about that is it's the same biker gangs that are working with the homosexual mafia that shot Kennedy and covered it up, and then framed Oswald, and then killed the guy that shot him. It's like, they killed him. So you had Oswald and then Ruby were both murdered by these protectionist thugs, these biker gangs. Why? They're easily manipulated by the CIA. Well, because in general, they're not really all that smart, I don't know if you noticed. So they're easily manipulated by the CIA. Most of them don't know that they're part of a homosexual agenda that's destroying this country. Now, you don't call yourself a Hell's Angel if you don't want to cause some chaos to begin with. But these renegades and these Hell's Angels have been following Hugh Squire around his whole life, causing torment, killing his wives, doing horrible things. And they're still killing people in the town where he lives today. The day he arrives there where he lives, that very day, they set up a company and they call it Hugh Kills Company. That day. And the same day, they kill a taxi driver, and his name was Huey Hewson, with a gunshot to the back of the head. And these are the people that are protecting your president. They don't want the truth out about 9/11 and Kennedy. Think about how serious that is. And, do what you can to bring justice to our country. And let's see. So the Hells Angels protected the Rolling Stones as they sang, "Who killed the Kennedys? After all, it was me and Hugh." I wonder who Hugh is. Yeah, it's Hugh Squire. Okay. So they're going around singing that song, protecting the people who killed Kennedy. And Mick Jagger, their song leader, was knighted by the Queen. Think about that. You see how it's all connected? How the biker gangs and the Queen of England's all connected. They queen the people that come out and hide the truth. They knight the people that hide the truth in this country. Because the Queen of England is still wanting this country back from, it was taken by Hugh's family, the founders of this country. The Jacksons, he's related to the Jacksons, And he's also related to Jefferson. Yeah, it's related to Jefferson. So think about that. Why they go generationally since the Revolution, marking the families of the people who rebelled against the Queen. 240 years later, they're still fighting 50 years later, they're still fighting the Revolutionary War, bringing America back. So that's why the Queen and her homosexual mafia, and with those who call themselves Jews but are not Jews, but are of the synagogue of Satan, that run the banks, and the crown gets the interest, okay, for the Federal Reserve banks and all the money in our country. They have done a pretty good job of taking our country back. They completely have a complete and total stranglehold of it. In fact, just to get our interest rates down, our president has to go, and our Congress and Senate has to go beg the Queen to keep the interest rates down. And so last time they gave her a copper mine to make sure that she would keep the interest rates down and not lose any money. Do you understand how corrupt and wicked our country is? This is the truth of Hugh Squires. This is stuff we need to get out. And in the news the other day also, they had the story of Samuel Little, who was also 79 years old, like David Koch. So they put his story out at the same time. Isn't that interesting? He was a mass murderer who killed between 60 and 93 people, it said. They weren't sure how many, but they specifically used the numbers 60 and 93. And when you take 93 and you divide it by 60, it equals 1.55. And then right after it gave those two numbers, it also gave 15 and 50, another 155 right there to mark the numbers 155 so you'd pay attention. This is how you have to decode this stuff. They don't care about how many people died. Okay, this is another day in Chicago. So Samuel Little's on there as a mass murderer, and they're putting it. They don't know how many died, but it's between 60 and 93. Let's not narrow it down very much now. Now what they're doing is they're giving you a code to decipher. And since 93 divided by 60 is 155, just look up 155 in your gematria, and you see that eliminate is 155, special ops is 155. So who did they eliminate? Well, it's not about the 60 to 90 kids that they murdered. They don't care about that. That's an average weekend in Chicago. That happens, and they don't report it most of the time. They're talking about the other 79-year-old in the article right before it, David Koch. You see, special ops, eliminate. You understand? You get it? See how they work? Samuel Little equals 149, like Skull and Bones, like Revelation, like Antichrist. Samuel Little equals 41, like Killer, like Skull and Bones, like Terror, like Amber Alert. Samuel Little equals 175, like Amber Alert. And it also equals 76, like Murder for Hire, like Victim, like Corpse. Couldn't have had any better of a name for a mass murderer, huh? Sure they didn't manipulate that in any way. Sure that wasn't set up by anybody. Then they showed a video on Fox News of Samuel Little. It was 2 minutes and 42 seconds long. Like Hell's Angels is 42 and Renegades is 42. We just said those are the biker gangs that are hiding the truth of 9/11 and Kennedy and are protecting President Trump. Think about that. The same groups protect President Trump as protected the killers of Kennedy. Getting pretty deep, isn't it? You see, that's why the blackout in New York City was on 42nd Street. That's not a coincidence. You see, Hugh's company, Bottom Line, was on 5th Street that intersects 42nd Street, and the blackout was 42, 5th, and 7th. Okay, went between those three streets down to the river in New York. And there was also a blackout when these biker gangs killed one of his wives over the entire Northeast, the very day that they killed her, brutally killed her. It was no laughing matter. A horrible thing that they did. Oh, hi, Sonia. Nice to see ZA on there. That horrible killing. They staged a blackout that took out most of the power in the entire Northeast, from Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, up into Canada. They did all of that on the very day that they killed his wife. So they had another one on 42nd Street, marking Hell's Angels and Renegades. Okay. And the place where Hugh's business used to be. Isn't it interesting that 2 streets from 5th Street would be 7th Street? And just recently we had McCormick flying his helicopter into a building on 7th. Okay, and who was he calling on the telephone while he was crashing the helicopter into that building. He was on the phone with Hugh, the guy I'm trying to get you to listen to and pay attention to. He can show you the call logs and has done it on his videos. He was on the freaking phone with Hugh. These people know his story. Do you understand what's going on? You know how many of these mass murderers that we decode and say the Illuminati did it? It's not the Illuminati, okay? And these people are calling Hugh while they're doing it. Because they're either defending some group that's fighting, or that might be for some motorcycle gang or against some gang or something, or is deep. So we need to learn Hugh's truth better. We need to understand what he's talking about. He's not making it up. Okay? Oh my goodness. So, and his information is understood around the world, okay? So if you hear somebody that's a decoder and they don't listen to what Hugh has to say, you understand they are not all that bright. They are putting down a person who is known around the world as the truth of 9/11, but it's not in the media here. Well, think about that. Well, why is it not in the media here? Oh, it's just convenient. It's not in the media here because he's making it up. Come on, let's use our brains for a second. Okay, let's think about what his story actually says, and let's use that space between our ears. Okay, let's think this through. Hugh owned Bottom Line Publishing, an ASCAP publisher, like Michael Jackson. Okay, Michael Jackson was an ASCAP publisher. Okay, Michael Jackson sold all of his rights. Hugh did not. Okay, but they tried and pressured Hugh to sell out. He wouldn't do it. They staged 9/11 to steal his company from him. And all those contracts, 26,000 contracts, every country on earth, okay? It's a lot of money. Think about that. One song could be worth $88 million, okay? He showed me a song from some group I'm sure you guys have heard of, but I can't even remember what he showed me now. But I don't know rock and roll, so I didn't recognize it, of course, but that doesn't mean anything. He says this song's worth $88 million, one song. Now it's back in, 30 years ago or something. Imagine how much it's worth now. 26,000 contracts. So think this through for a minute. Now, Hugh also owned Fox News before Rupert Murdoch. Yeah. Okay. Before it was the current Fox News, as we know it now. Now, do you think that publishers are going to report that they stole everything from Hugh? That'd be pretty much an admission of guilt. Okay, they're not going to admit what they did when they took everything from him on 9/11. So if you don't hear it in the news, shouldn't that be expected? I marvel that anybody can dismiss Hugh out of hand with no thoughts, no time to really go into what he's saying. He's saying some pretty powerful stuff that could indict every member of Congress and the president, all of the Senate. It could literally invalidate thousands of court cases because they've used his trademark to study for the exam. Okay. Yeah, they use the bottom line, and that's illegal. They can't call their bar exam bottom line. They can't do that. That's illegal. Okay. All this was done to hide what they did to him. Since he started exposing it, like within just 2 or 3 days of him starting to expose the bar, they changed it off of their website, and he's got the proof. This is no joke, man. This is powerful stuff. So what are we going to do about it? I believe in justice. I believe in justice for Hugh. Okay, Hugh doesn't believe in justice for himself, I don't think, because he's never seen it. He's seen hundreds of murders where these biker gangs just go and ruthlessly kill people to mark him all his entire life, including his 4 wives and fiancés. But I believe in ultimate justice, and I believe that some of you listening are smart enough, intelligent enough to grasp what's being said here. And I believe you're going to share it. You're going to learn what he has to say. You're going to seek justice for what they did to him and to thousands of other children. You're going to help separate this country from the Queen, from the pedophilia gangs, including the president right now. I don't know that he's specifically a pedophile, but I know that he's with the biker gangs. I know that he grovels to the Queen. And I know that he's not telling the truth of 9/11 and Kennedy. How much more do I really need to know? Joe Biden, because he's bisexual and he's a den, like where wolves live, a den of bisexuals. They're in this. I don't know if they make up their names or if they are put in their position and elevated by higher ups because of their names. I don't know exactly how it all works, okay? But there's no doubt that he's a frickin' pedophile, and he's in with them. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you vote for either party. You got perverts, liars, and people who are covering for what they've done and are still stealing from every single one of us through the Federal Reserve. You think it's okay that you don't get to own property in this country? That we all live in this box and pretend like we're free, but it's literally illegal to own property? You'll never own a piece of property, ever, because you'll always have to pay tax on it. And in the state of West Virginia, it's not even legal to own a car, because for the rest of your life, you'll always have to pay a tax on it. There's never a point where you can just rest. You'll always have to work until you're 100 years old. Or 110 if you live that long. You'll never ever get rest. You only get to pay the bankers and the Queen. You are a slave. You're not free anymore. America is a myth. Freedom is a myth. That can change. If this information were to reach critical mass about Hugh Squire, he could indict a whole lot of them with his own testimony in Congress and put a lot of them in jail. Won't be easy, I guarantee you that. But think about how valuable a testimony like that is. And think about ultimate justice. Anybody that's been hurt by a pedo gang? How about the constant flow of drugs that's being used to finance these pedo gangs? Anybody that's been hurt by drugs? That's your CIA doing that. And they're probably listening to me right now. I wouldn't be surprised because they're not shining the light on me today, thank goodness. I did that for about 3 of my videos. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're listening right now because they don't want this information out. So if you see something happens to me, spread this like crazy. Don't fall to them. Don't let them win. And don't let the people around you convince you that you're crazy. The premier of Saudi Arabia that gave Hugh Squires a television station and said you can come here and spread your truth for the rest of your life and have as many hours and time as you want in this television station and live here, and we'll give you a house and everything you want. Well, he thinks it's true. When Russia is killing people to send messages, killing this Russian mafia kills this runner over there Margarita Pluvanova, you know, Mark and Hugh Squires, as obvious as can be. You know, they know the truth of 9/11 over there. And they're doing this all around the world. Even the ships that Iran stole marked Hugh in a real obvious way. Okay. The world knows this story, but America doesn't, because America is profiting off of what they did. The news and the media is profiting on how they stole from Hugh and performed 9/11. Had nothing to do with Muslims. I don't like Islam. I just showed you a video not too long ago, about a week or so ago, about how Islam still sucks. But that doesn't mean they did 9/11. Okay? Your government did 9/11. Islam still still says that women have to walk 4 feet behind their husband. Okay? And that you're legally allowed to rape a woman if she's not with a man in public. Okay? Islam sucks. Islam says that because Muhammad drank camel pee, that you should drink camel pee. Islam sucks, okay? If you don't believe me, watch Apostate Prophet. This is a guy who came out of Islam. He was very devout, and he tells you how it is. Go to YouTube, Apostate Prophet. I love listening to that guy. But just because Islam sucks doesn't mean they did 9/11. They had nothing to do with it. This was your government, your CIA doing this for the theft of bottom line. And to ramp up the war machine, you know, to create more killers, more people to go into the Hells Angels and protect the presidents, and more biker groups and that sort of thing. More veterans who will join the forces that protect them. See how that works? It's a circle. And not to mention all the hundreds of billions of dollars that are, who knows what they do with all that money. You know, it gets places where it shouldn't. We all know that. In the process, they kill millions of people. That's not okay. Most of them innocent. And do you think that a group, think about all the wars that the Queen has started around the world throughout the history of England. Right now, they're trying really hard to start a war with Iran. Can you imagine how many millions of people are going to die in that war? And I think Trump's going to go along with it. We'll see. I don't know. And how ruthless and how ridiculous the reasons for most of those wars. All of them over money for the Queen. Every single one of them. Territory to get money for the Queen or money for the Queen. You know, just like the Queen used Hong Kong as an opium port for China, okay? That's what the CIA is doing here. It's the same thing. Drugs have been used by governments for a long time, and since the Queen is running our government, it shouldn't be a surprise that they're drug running constantly. Your CIA is mostly a bunch of drug runners. That's what Oklahoma City bombing was about. They literally started a drug ring on Hugh's property to frame him, to try to get him in trouble, but instead he turned the tide and busted them. So the people, the CIA agents that were part of it, part of that drug ring, were who were the guys? Nichols and what's the other guy's name from Oklahoma City? Well, I can't think of their guy's name all of a sudden. But the two main guys from Oklahoma City were the ones running that drug ring. And so guess what happened to them? They staged something to kill them off. You see how amazing this is? How corrupt and wicked your government is? This happened on Hugh's property in Tennessee. Tennessee, yeah, the one in Tennessee, yeah. So almost all of these mass shootings that we've seen are in some way related to Hugh. You know, the Las Vegas shooting was all about Hugh. He was there the day before. You know, he knew the people in the Philippines that either they gave the guns or supply the guns or something. He had some connection there with that. So he had just been there the day before, and he was going out to try to bring some justice for the people they killed. And he was driving around, and everywhere they went, they staged a mass shooting to cover up everything that he did. Freaking nuts, isn't it? Are we, the citizens of this country, going to cower from that? Are we going to not hide? Are we going to hide the truth? Or are we going to go out there and spread it? Do we believe in justice? That's what I want to know. I believe there's ultimate justice, and regardless of what we do, there will be ultimate justice. But I want to know, do you believe in justice? What are you going to do? Make your decision. Well, it's been almost an hour. I appreciate everybody that's watching. If you're watching on Bow and Arrow, please like, share, and subscribe.